Welcome to the show where we talk about whatever we want, whenever we want, and nobody cares.
Hi, I'm Eli, and this is my brother and co-host Joshua, and this is Podcast.
Hey guys, hope you're having a beautiful day and welcome back. And here in Lancaster, our hometown, there's only a week and a half or 2 weeks left of summer break.
Not even, I think it's just a week now.
9 days.
9 days. Well, you would be counting down because in that short amount of time you go back to school.
Yeah.
And you start your first year of high school. So with that little bit of time we had left, we decided that we were going to have Andrew, my eldest son, back on the show. So welcome back, Andrew.
Yep.
And, we don't have to talk about news. We already did that yesterday with This Is Headlines. If you haven't seen that, go check it out.
Yep.
And away we go.
Ooh, yeah.
So, I noticed last week you rewatched the documentary The Collapse.
Yep. Which is hard to watch for me.
It's an interesting documentary. It kind of really makes you think. I came over, I kind of watched a few seconds of it, but I was busy with other things at the time. Tell us a little bit about the documentary.
There was a gentleman, his name was Michael Rupert. Long story short, he had an acute clearance in the government, which is above top secret, technically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's and he knows a bunch of stuff. He's throughout his career, throughout his lifestyle, everything. He's found out a lot of things. That kind of gives his credentials in a short go.
He was also an LA cop.
LA cop.
He was an LA detective. He was.
A lot of
he's
things.
a journalist.
He's a journalist. He's a lot of things. But he talks about, in the documentary, he talks about the idea of peak oil, which is basically the idea of once we use up, the use of oil can only hit a certain height. Otherwise, it will be. Not otherwise, I shouldn't say that. We'll get to a certain height of use of oil, and then it'll go down because we'll start running out of oil. You can't create oil.
Right. It's a fossil fuel, and there's only a finite amount. And once it's used, you can't make.
And he talks about how there's a lot of, there's people saying, oh, we can use this, we can use this, we can use this, you can use this, but so many ideas that people have about how we can replace oil, they simply just can't. Ethanol currently costs more to make than to use. Nuclear power, we can only make the buildings, we can only move things, we can only do certain things with nuclear power as long as we have oil. We use oil in multiple ways to make nuclear power.
Well, and I think there's also
wind power. To build wind turbines, you have to have oil. For solar panels, you have to have oil to build solar panels.
Well, he also talks about that the oil isn't just used for power.
It's used for everything.
It's used for everything. Everything from, there's 22 gallons of oil in a tire.
Mm-hmm.
Shoes are made of oil. Your iPhone, your computer, your Xbox, those are all made of oil. Anything with plastic.
Well, not just that.
Even like the thin strip of that thin strip of clear cellophane that wraps your meat when you go to the grocery store and buy a package of meat. That is oil.
It's not just that though. It's everything uses oil for this T-shirt that I'm wearing to be made, probably in Thailand or something. For it to be made and brought to me. To be made, they're using power that's powered most likely by oil or coal, which is also a non-renewable resource. So you got that. Then you got to ship it across seas on a boat that uses oil.
Well, you're still talking about oil for power. I'm talking about you can't say I can make oil to make an iPhone, right? But I can't use ethanol to make an iPhone. I can't use wind power. I can't use wind. I can't use air.
Yeah. It's just
that's why I was saying, you're still talking about oil as a means of power, which you're right. Everything that is powered by oil right now. But I'm talking about not only do we use oil for power, we also use it
To make things.
To make things, physical things. And so when people point to alternative energy resources, maybe there is some solution there, maybe there isn't, but there is no solution to the things we
Replacing
make on a day-to-day basis that
Yeah.
that we have come to as a modern society rely on.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting movie. It makes you really think about that. He's right. There's only a finite supply of it, and truthfully, nobody really knows
How much is left?
right how much is left. We suspect not much.
He mentions that Saudi Arabia has the largest oil field in the entire world, and it's like upward of like 25% of the world's oil is in Saudi Arabia, and the thing about that is that they're drilling off seas now, and it's actually much more expensive and much more, not just expensive with money, but also uses more oil to drill off seas than on land. But now they're drilling off seas, but they refuse to tell everybody how much oil they have, or how much oil is estimated to be down there.
Or how about getting oil, like getting oil in dangerous ways, like fracking and stuff like that?
Well, that's why we don't do fracking, because it's dangerous for the environment, which is eventually the environment might be, and it's what we're really going to talk about here, is the environment might just be your home,
Right.
So yeah, today we are indeed talking about.
We're talking a little bit about surviving, in a post-societal collapse or post-apocalyptic collapse. Some of these are way out there, like a zombie apocalypse. Some of these are not, more like a collapse scenario. Not taking anything too seriously. We're not by any means survivalists or preppers. I do not have a go bag sitting at the door ready to roll.
You have a
I
day
don't.
bag.
I have my day-to-day bag, but that's
the
because
go place. It's not like
that's my everyday. I just keep stuff in there because I do a lot of things on a day-to-day basis.
he doesn't carry.
But
that.
I don't have a go bag with a collapsible rifle and a knife and MREs.
MREs.
I don't have I don't have a water filtration system in the house. I don't have those. I don't have a bunker somewhere. So we're not survivors, we're not preppers, but
It's fun to fantasize.
everybody talks about. Well, it's somewhat fun to fantasize. What would I do in a collapse? In a post-societal collapse. I think everybody thinks that they will do well.
Everyone would like to think they do well.
Everybody likes to think like, well, I would do well in that situation.
I don't think I would.
So.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that, in my opinion, I've watched a lot of videos recently about surviving, being a survivalist, go bags, all that stuff. Excuse me. And I realized that just in an overall general sense, nobody has actually had to live in that situation.
What about that?
Around here. Even during, Hurricane Katrina, where they're talking about taking a bug-out bag just to survive for a few days, whatever, that's one thing. We're talking about an actual collapse of society where you will no longer be able to, just survive the way we do today.
Yeah.
I believe that most people that prepare for that are even then they're ill-prepared, because no one actually knows exactly anymore what that truly means.
You were watching a guy on YouTube like a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about bug out bags, but he had like a whole plan, like 2-month plan to get from like one area to another.
He had,
and he said he would like leave his dog for this.
He was talking about how you need to be prepared to give up certain things. He says if you want to survive yourself, you have to be prepared to give up your certain family and friends, extended family and friends. You have to be prepared to know that I can't hike 100 miles in the middle of winter with my dog, so I'm gonna have to leave him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, people aren't mentally prepared. I'm like, no one can be mentally prepared for this. There's no way to mentally prepare for this.
Well,
unless you literally live out in the wilderness all the time. That's all you do.
Even if you're like in combat in the military, you still don't have.
Well, you still have.
Near
You're
the
given
experience.
weapons. You're given.
Yeah,
you know,
you're prepared
you-
for that
there-
type of stuff. Yeah.
There's no experience right now that really truly comes close, in my opinion, to what.
Well,
might
and
actually
guys in the
happen.
military don't have their family members right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're in the military. You know, the guys that are fighting in the Middle East right now.
Mhm.
They don't have their family members right there that they have to be concerned about the safety and the well-being of those of those people. You know, back home, if a post-society thing happened, they would have people that they would be responsible for that are near and dear to their hearts.
I just
Like
think,
we're not. Nobody's trained for that. Like militaries are trained for a certain thing.
Well, they're mission
We're not-
specific, yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you can really train for. In the end, it doesn't matter how much you trained or studied on stuff. It really won't help you that much in the end.
Yeah. But it could. That's not necessarily true. It
Yeah,
can
it
help.
could.
There's certain situations that it
Yeah.
can help in, but you don't know what the situation's gonna be.
You know, something, I'm going to go back to the movie The Collapse, because Michael Rupert, who is, by the way, the movie again is called The Collapse. It was made in 2009, so if you're wanting to find it, it's a documentary, it's called The Collapse. Michael Rupert is the guy that is the subject of the movie.
You can buy it. You can also watch it for free on YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay.
Have to watch it sometime.
One of the things that they do get into, he talks about what happens after oil runs out, and what some of his predictions are. Which, by the way, he also spent time studying economics and predicting economics, and had predicted several major economical changes before they happened. He actually did predict them; they did come true. And one of the things that I found was not surprising. It wasn't surprising, but he so quickly dismisses the human race.
For ingenuity.
You know, at one point the interviewer asks him, says, "Hey, you know," he gives this doomsday scenario. Blood will run in the streets. You know, he gives this nightmare scenario. You know, for people who aren't prepared, they're done. They're dead. And the interviewer asks him, he says, "You know, don't you think you might be discounting
Human ingenuity.
humanity? Aren't you discounting human ingenuity, humanity's resourcefulness, humanity's ability to adapt?" And he point blank says no. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I kind of disagree with that. I a lot disagree with it. A couple things. One, especially here in the States, human beings are resourceful. We're creators. We do things. We build things. We create. And just because society collapses doesn't mean we're not going to continue to do that. Here in the States, one of the great things about, there's a lot of things we fail at as Americans. A lot of things. But one of the things that we excel at more than every other country, we excel at coming together in times of crisis. Now, we excel at coming together. We excel at our ingenuity. Americans are some of the most ingenious people on the face of the planet.
Look at the Revolutionary War.
That's not just the Revolutionary War. I mean,
From then
I'm
on.
just saying, like,
since the Revolutionary War, almost every major invention has been invented by Americans.
except for Pokemon Go.
Except for Pokemon Go. We have, we are inventors, we're creators, we survive, we thrive, and we come together in times of crisis. And I just think that he was too quick to dismiss our humanity.
Did you ever think this guy was just a little bit nuts? Or portrayed that, like...
There are moments, and Eli, tell me if you agree with me, there are moments that he seems... There are moments he doesn't seem all there.
I mean, it's
Well,
like, I don't know...
Especially, he talks something about Obama, and he goes, wait a minute. And he goes into a tangent that is completely off topic, and
It's not completely off topic. He talks about corporate America.
Yeah,
being, he talks about Obama being a prisoner of corporate America and stuff like that.
See, I disagree. I think any politician is immediately part of corporate America. I mean, they are by their being part of politics. Politics is so ingrained in corporate America, and corporate America is so ingrained in politics that he is immediately a part of that.
But
he didn't get that way by not being part of corporate politics. So he's not a prisoner of.
But it's not just that. It's everything. You know, he is a little. I will say, there is, in my opinion, to a certain degree, you know, knowing that stuff and being affected for a large portion of your life by that, you know, by knowing that and trying to teach other people about it and people not even listening, there is a certain amount of nuttiness to it. Anyways.
I don't know. I think it just seems like there are parts of the movie that just seem like he's not entirely there. I don't think what he's saying is wrong. I think he's absolutely right. But I don't think he's all there.
Yeah.
And, you know, he did eventually commit suicide.
Yes, he did.
Because of the collapse. Because he said it was coming, and people weren't listening. And he eventually committed suicide over it. So, I mean...
See, that's what concerns me a little bit. If this guy is that concerned.
Well, I don't know. I
mean, how old was the guy? I mean, really, like...
I don't know how old he was, to be honest.
I'm just saying, like...
60s.
Yeah, like, that's pretty... That's older. I mean, he thinks it's going to happen in the next 20 years? And how long ago did he actually...
If you watch the movie, if you watch the documentary, he says that it's already started. It's just the start to finish of the actual event can take very short time or very long time. And he said to maintain at least certain things, infrastructure, to maintain certain qualities or whatever, it has to be fast. But then he referred to fast being like 20 years. He said fast for this is like 20 years.
Well, the question is, do you think if Saudi Arabia runs out of oil, do you think they would say something immediately?
Well, because they won't. They have to say something immediately because we buy oil from them.
And how many things
if they stop shipping people oil, if they stop shipping the entire world oil because they're out of oil, they're not going to be like, well, we're just not shipping.
See, I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think if Saudi Arabia ran out of oil, or if they were running out of oil and they knew they were...
running out of oil is a different story. Running out of oil, they won't tell us until it's right in the cup.
Well, they're going to know they're running out before they run out. It's not going to be like an overnight, like, oh, well, we're out of oil.
I know that, but they will push it till the very edge.
I would imagine... No, I don't think so. I imagine what would happen...
How many times do you see on, like, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that, of hoax stories of, like, news stuff? How many people do you think are going to be like, if somebody says, okay, we're out of oil, how many people do you think are just going to go nuts, and how many people are just going to be blowed off? Like, oh,
well, I think most people are going to blow it off because they don't understand.
Or they'll be like, oh, the news is just blowing it out of proportion, like it usually does. Because that's what I'm afraid of, is that people just kind of blow it off, and then once it actually hits them...
Well, if that's... The thing is, it doesn't have to be actually right on. For the collapse to happen, it's not just oil. It's about the people. You know, if the riots start happening before the collapse, then that's it. We have the riots before the collapse instead of on the collapse. We have riots, and we already have riots. Yeah. Whether they're related or not, we have riots already. And he makes mention of that too. He says, you know, you're talking about a war between the people.
Okay, but what...
And he says that's already going on. Maybe not where you are, but it is already going on.
So what happens, like, it's almost a point once people find out, okay, our riots aren't doing anything, the government really can't do crap about this.
Well, we're not talking about rioting against, we're not talking about rioting for something, we're talking about rioting out of fear, which is different.
I know, I'm just saying, either way, what do you think that when the people calm down, that's when I think they'll be scary, is when they do calm down and do get their head together.
I don't know. Again, it's a situation that we just don't know. Every situation that's a survivalist-esque situation, we just don't know. Some of them are kind of stupid. You know, we actually do have preppers prepping for a zombie apocalypse.
Like there's that doomsday show.
Let's talk about zombie apocalypse, because that's something that I think is hilarious. I think of all the horror tropes, of all the different horror genre, subgenres, zombies makes the absolute least amount of most sense scientifically, least amount of sense realistically.
Well, scientifically,
you know, if you take like vampires, you know, obviously, you know, there is no real vampirism, and there really couldn't.
There's vampirism in the sense that people can drink other people's blood.
Yeah.
There's not vampirism in the sense that they're gonna suck it through their teeth, and you're gonna turn into a vampire as well when they do.
Right, or that they live forever. They're immortal. They turn into bats,
they can't go into sun or whatever.
Or all the monster genres, they just they're all fairly unrealistic. But they're all pretty unscientific. Zombies are zombies are generally based on viruses and things that have some scientific backing. But they're the most unrealistic because here's the thing: there's no country with even a moderately well-trained army. And I'm not talking about like a mega army like the United States or China or
Russia.
I'm talking about any country with even a moderately well-trained army.
France. No, they have a
great league.
really
We're talking about like.
We're talking about like.
I don't know. You're talking about.
Uganda.
Look at South Africa, right?
Yeah.
A moderately well-trained army. They don't really, play too much on the international stage. But they have a moderately well-trained army. Could handle something like the zombie apocalypse.
Go and mow them down.
It's just they always make the big.
It's not an apocalypse. It's just a zombie uprising. It's like a zombie event where they start walking the streets, and you become a zombie by getting bit by a zombie, right? Well, you can't get bit by a zombie if all the zombies are mowed down in the first couple of days by.
Well, like I said,
by an army.
Right.
Well, like I said, I don't understand like scientifically, and I'll keep saying it. I don't understand how, if their body is decaying from the virus or whatever the situation is, why they are zombies.
Well,
shouldn't their muscles?
Well, that's the other thing.
Shouldn't their muscles just completely shrink almost, and so when they try to bite you, it would just be like an old person trying to choke you or something like that?
The idea of zombies is decaying, and it doesn't take that long for a body to decay. It doesn't take years for a body to decay to a point that it would become ineffective.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they might still be around as decaying bodies, but they're not going to be effective anymore at a certain point.
Yeah. Eventually, they're just going to be walking the streets and they're all going to lay on the ground like.
Because they're just.
Also, what type of zombies are they? Like, are they like?
There's a few different types.
Okay, so other than like, let's say, like a bioengineered super weapon, Resident Evil style, or. If we're talking about the classic zombie, the shuffling, moaning zombies, it just doesn't make a lick of sense. There's no way a zombie apocalypse could actually occur.
Andrew acts like that in the morning, and I could escape
you do too.
him, so.
You just did earlier.
And?
I woke up before you.
I was up before you. So yeah, that's it. And I think it's hilarious that there are people, some jokingly. But there are quite a few not jokingly preparing for a zombie apocalypse, and I just
oh my.
I don't even understand. I don't even have words.
Oh my no.
To understand.
Well,
I just don't. I don't get why you would even think that would be a thing. So, let's talk about another apocalypse scenario, because this is one that still is a potentially real threat today.
Meteors hitting the Earth. Oh wait,
that could happen too. But we're talking about nuclear warfare.
That's a potential threat every day right now.
You still have North Korea
and Russia
North Korea saying that we're building nuclear. They're doing nuclear tests. We have nuclear capabilities. Run by a mentally unstable young man. The country's run by their leader's mentally unstable, and they say they have nuclear weapons.
You say the wrong thing. I mean.
And we haven't disarmed the world. Many major countries have nuclear capabilities.
And something I hate to say it this way, but don't discount the fact that the United States has those weapons.
They're the only...
And that's no matter how you say that, Russia may have nuclear weapons, China may have nuclear weapons, and North Korea may have nuclear weapons. We have nuclear weapons.
Well, I wasn't discounting us, because
there's no reason in my mind, especially with some of the leadership we may have soon, that we might not start the nuclear
I understand.
war.
Have you noticed we're the only one who's
Well,
actually
yeah,
dropped
no,
the
that's
bomb?
well, and the rest of the world does not like us for that reason, and for good reason. We've been the only country in the world
that has actually
utilized the nuclear option.
And it's not just that; it's the fact that we demand that other people get rid of it, but we keep ours ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We demand that some country in the Middle East has some nuclear weapons. We demand that they drop them, or we will attack. And we're like, they're like, well, why don't you only have enough within within the city? I think it's within the state of what country? Colorado. We have enough nuclear weapons to destroy the entire world multiple times over, or something like that. We have too many nuclear weapons as it is. Why do people think that? A lot of people say, oh, well, if we have a nuclear war, it's going to be started by Russia. Or it's going to be started by China. It's going to be started by Iraq or something, or Afghanistan.
But has anybody put it upon themselves?
We could very well, and there's a very good chance that if there's a nuclear war, we will be the ones to start it. So...
Well, and what's interesting is that you mentioned with the current, people are up for leadership, and I think that the options for leadership in this country seem to get slimmer and slimmer every year. It seems like we have less and less good options, good choices to make for leadership every year.
Don't worry. In 2020, we're going to be able to vote Will Smith to be our.
That's the same
president.
time as.
I'm just saying that every year I see
more and more shyster.
No, I just see less. I see more and more politicians. I'm like, I don't really. I can't get behind you. And when I'm not gonna make any political statements. But when the primary started, I did not think there were very many good players on the field on both the right and the left. There just weren't very many good players on the field.
And the ones that might have been decent aren't in anymore.
Well, you have.
I'm just saying though that really, truthfully, even the ones that you were saying might have been decent, I'm not impressed by. There's nobody on the field, on the right or the left, that impresses me. There's nobody impresses me. And the thing is this: the point I'm driving at is this: is that there are so few checks and balances when it comes to launching a nuke.
Mm-hmm.
It takes almost nothing. It only is a presidential order.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nobody to check the president and say, you know what, no, we're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Once the president gives the word, it goes. And so...
There's a book that I know you and I have both read, and it's actually one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book, is The Last Babylon.
Pat Frank.
Pat Frank, written in 1957. And... It's a story about a town in Florida that survives a worldwide nuclear war, and
they're uniquely suited to surviving.
Yeah.
They have an underground water system that they can draw from. There are several things that are conveniently placed that they are uniquely suited to ride out this.
And the thing about it is, in the story, it's about nuclear apocalypse and all that. But they even talk about things being radioactive. You can't go a certain distance out of town because that's where the radioactive stuff is. Don't take water from streams. Don't do this, don't do that because of radioactivity. And that's in nuclear warfare. That's something that a lot of people can't prepare for because you simply can't, because you don't know where a nuke's gonna land.
Right.
If a nuke lands in Columbus, Ohio, depending on the size of the nuke, we could get hit too. But even if the radiation radius doesn't hit us, we can't go north anymore. We can't go up that way anymore because it's going to be radioactive. So if you plan to leave Lancaster and go to Toledo or up into Michigan or something like that, you can't directly go straight up. You have to find another way. So no matter how much you prepped for a nuclear war, you can't predict.
I'll tell you one of the in that book, one of the most shocking moments in that book, and it's a great book. Again, if you it's called The Last Babylon, written by Pat Frank. It's a classic novel. If you didn't read in high school, you should check it out. spoiler alert. So cover your ears if you don't want to hear. If you're planning to read and you don't want to hear, one of the most shocking moments.
Everyone dies.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
One of the most shocking moments in the book is when the government, they find out the government is still somewhat together.
The Secretary of Education.
The Secretary of Education is the President of the United States because everybody above her
was killed.
Was killed. And that's a huge deal because the
that's
Secretary...
like 36th in line.
Yeah, it's
for
way low
president.
in line for
So you're talking about literally...
Who's next in line? Secretary of Defense?
Vice President and Secretary of Defense.
Defense, then Treasury, then...
There's a long list.
Yeah.
There's a long list. But when the Secretary of Education is now president because of death...
Right.
You're like, holy crap.
Like,
it's a pretty shocking moment of the book. So, it's a great book. It's worth reading. So there's some of our thoughts on surviving.
Don't forget to tell us if you're a survivalist, if you've done anything survival-esque, if you've prepped in any way for anything, let us know. We're not gonna hate on you. Just let us know your experiences with that. How you feel on the subject. Don't forget to comment below on that subject.
I wonder if the zombie apocalypse happened if people would still play Pokemon Go.
Maybe.
Probably.
Like,
make
it more interesting.
Keep pushing the zombies away.
Make it more interesting.
Stop! I'm trying to catch the Pidgey.
So many of them look like zombies anyway. Like
there's a
walk around.
There's a law required if you go out and play, you have to kill like 3 zombies before you.
I don't know. It's I don't know. Prepping. I recently have been doing some research. Not that I'm going to be a survivalist, but I've been researching into surviving.
It's a fascinating subject. I mean, it is a fascinating subject. It is, and like I said, I think everybody thinks about and fantasizes about or thinks about what they would do in any given situation, how they would survive.
Yeah. Well, think about every situation, like you said.
So, that's that.
Yep. Okay. Well,
so I think we are running out of time. Do you want to sign us out?
Yeah. Until next time, I'm Eli.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Joshua.
And this is Podcast.
So what do you think? What do you think about? Maybe I should cry for help. Maybe I should feed myself.
That could work. Oh hey.
Hey there.
Did you like today's episode? Don't forget to go ahead and press that little like button below. And also, subscribe if you really like what you see. Also, share it with your friends if you think they'll enjoy it. And comment if you have any experiences with what we talked about today.
Also, guys, don't forget to check out our Facebook and our Instagram at This Is Podcast. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to get back to scripting so we can keep making videos for you. Thanks guys.